Welcome to the What Drives You podcast. I'm Kevin Miller. I produce this show to help us all continually discover where we want to go, why, and the best way to get there, all the while enjoying the daily drive as much as the destinations we want to reach. In this episode, the reluctant entrepreneur and how learning the business side of your work can help you serve your people better. So not everyone is driven to be an entrepreneur. But sometimes we may end up going down this path in order to have freedom to do what we think is best, to do what we want to do, to deliver our product, our service, our art. So my best friend, Randy James, he's a medical doctor. When he went to medical school, went out to be a doc, he made a pact with God, as you'll hear, that he'd be a doctor, but he never wanted to be a businessman. Well, following is a story of why he reluctantly did end up going into business for himself, and now testifies that having to learn the business side of his vocation has helped him be a better doctor and serve his patients better, and that today he's actually enjoying the business side as well. I've always loved being an entrepreneur, but I'm not a naturally gifted businessman overall. I'm not great at running a business. I can start things, but not the ongoing maintenance. I just want to do my art though. And I feel many of you will resonate with that. There is, again, a product, a service, a message you care deeply about, and you don't see how to do it, to deliver it through the traditional channels as an employee somewhere for some company, some business. So you're looking to set out as an entrepreneur, or maybe you already have and you're well down that road, but it's not all happy sailing. Well, I recorded this show to commiserate with you to a degree and give you some inspiration and ideas on reconciling what you do with how you're doing it. I do ask for some grace on this recording. We had an audio malfunction we totally missed. Randy and I were sitting in the studio together, and we found out later Randy's mic was not working. So our audio team worked to make things as clear as possible in the recording. You'll notice a pretty stark difference, I think, in the audio quality of when I talk and he talks, but it's clear. And I think you'll find that his story and Randy's content is worth the slight audio error. You can find Randy and his team at truelifemedicine.com. And as you're listening, got a question, comment for myself or for Randy? He's usually right down the hall in my offices from me. Let me know. kmiller@kevinmiller.co is my email address. Hey, what drives you becomes the construct you live your life from. Let's work on creating a better construct right here and now. Drive with me and Randy James as we talk about how the business side of what we do can actually help us serve our clients, our customers, our patients even better. This morning, at our normal Friday guys gathering at the coffee shop, you talked about buying or taking some new offices out, buying a building, new offices or some extra offices and whatnot, and actually referred to the real estate process and I'm going to say business as fun. And it just brought me back to your own drive, your drive. You started off as a doctor who wanted to help people. And you went through medical school and then went further into functional medicine. So you're a doctor, you're all set up to do your thing. You're doing it. You did it in the military. You came out and you're working in practice and doing the normal doc thing. And you wanted to get to root causes. So you went and did more education, functional medicine. But in that, and you told me this early on, one of your first thoughts as you were going to become a doctor and whatnot was.
Yeah. In fact, I told God, number one, I don't want to own a business. I don't want to do inpatient medicine. And of course, wound up doing both. One of those being owning a business, which is when you and I were first getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. And even then, I hated it. It was a source of turmoil.
Can I say a necessary evil?
A necessary evil, yes. In order to, quote unquote, make money, to be self-employed, we had to make the business. And there I was. And at the time, had partners that we weren't in alignment with on many things. And that was conflict. And even after that, so getting out of that sort of normal American medicine business, and then into another partnership, but this one based on functional medicine. And still there was threads of conflict. We weren't seeing eye to eye with the business partner at the time there. And since we're on that was about 4 years. And then there was a little bit of trauma. That person had to retire, which I remember, you probably remember too. I called you, and it was December. It was Christmas time, and we were 7 business days away from a relaunch of a different way you do business with that old business partner, and he was out. I called you, and we chewed on things and opportunity and whatever. That's when you and I started. January 1, 2015. And now looking backwards again, I'd say, okay, then you and I were 4 years. Mm-hmm. And another layer of business, and now with a different goal, a different kind of a drive, a different understanding of partnership. Our product was changing. One of the first books we read together under your partnership was Raving Fans. Mm-hmm. And you and I both have bad memories of some of the employees.
Yeah.
And then we actually launched another business together, the insurance side of things. Mm-hmm. And if then you and I even had conflict on how we look back at it in the past, because I would say, no, Kevin, we were successful. We built the thing, we just couldn't grow it, dude. And now we're looking back and we say, well, gosh, our learning curve was so steep. And anyway, so drive, motivation, the history of all of that. Coming into 2024, our product is different, where we now have a little bit more confidence in that product. The success is there, the growth is there, the scalability is there, which has led us to rent space 20 miles away down the spring, which led to, one of our patients who was a commercial real estate person, and rocked the idea. Next thing I know, we're looking at buildings. Uh-huh. Like, who would have thought that long ago I would say the words, $1.6 million or whatever. Like, I didn't, like, commercial real estate is commercial real estate. And to manage renters and leasers and all of that. So this morning I told Todd, our real estate buddy, I was like, gosh, it's kind of.
And you're a businessman.
And I am
you're a doctor, but you're a businessman. Well, 2 things on that. So as this show publishes, it'll be about a week prior. So folks, as you're listening, about a week prior that I did a show with, with Seth Godin, and it was on strategy. And you and I just talked about it over lunch, that there's a strategy. I mean, you have a strategy to help people. You and I share that strategy. We want to help people be, healthier and more inspired and live more fulfilled, meaningful lives.
Can I shift your word?
Yeah.
Would it be, and this is what you and Seth were talking about, but I think it might even be better said as we have that as an objective.
Okay.
Our hope
Fair
is that my objective is in the world of business and patients is to help them. That's the North Star objective, that a person would feel helped.
And then the strategy.
How are we going to do this thing?
How are we going to do this thing?
What's our philosophy, the guiding principles that, again, you and I have had so many years where 10 years ago, you're like, all right, give me the 4 principles of, if I do these 4 things, that's I'm going to be well.
Yeah.
I'm like, it just so much depends on what your objective is. And then once we clarify your objective, once we then say, okay, to achieve that objective, how are we going to strategize to get there? And now we say, all right, now we're going to go buy a building.
Okay, I want to come back. No, I appreciate that. I want to come back further there, because here you are and you want to help people. Let's just go say you want to help people, and even go ahead and give it in the category of health and wellness, because you'd help them. You didn't go to become a financial advisor and help them with finances or help them build a house or whatever. So you're going to do it within health and wellness, which is really mine as well. Now you're then going to go on a medical route, and you went to do that and become a doctor, didn't want to be a businessman. And the essence that I came to this discussion with was people who are out there who want to do something. They want to solve a problem. They want to help people. There's an opportunity, and they want to help people with a desire they have, whatever. They want to provide something. And they want it. That thing is what is the guiding light, the objective, the principle. They don't necessarily want to be in business. They don't necessarily want to do all that kind of stuff. And you could have not done that. You could have remained just a normal, traditional practitioner, work with a practice these days. Most of them, you're working with some big conglomerate. and you get all the perks with that and money with that and normal doc. And you said, no, I want to get to the root issues. And you did not see a viable way to do that within the construct of normal, traditional American medicine. And from that, you went, well, and you took out an SBA loan. Can we be candid? I mean, it was like an $800,000 SBA loan. Bought this building that we're in right now. How many years later?
Yeah, that was 2010.
2010. So here we are at 2024. You bought a building, so you become you own real estate, and then at some point a landlord, as you let other people, have space in it and whatnot. And that's not your point. Your point was to sit with people and help them change their lives for the better. So initially, the business was a necessary evil. I just want people to hear that and say, I'm not going to try to Pollyanna that's relevant for some people. For us to be free to do what we want, sometimes that's a necessary.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I would say that the Western medical approach is I'm going to gently say these words, is a necessary evil to have a system that can help you when Canyon, your son, accidentally almost chops off his finger.
Mm-hmm.
You call me, I'm saying, oh my gosh, now I want to leave. Right? Let's not talk about his diet. Don't bring him to my building. My building is not for that. The American medical system can help that problem awesomely. If you go camping and you actually accidentally drink river water and you're barfing up your guts, and they say, Kevin, here's 2 medicines, an antibiotic and a Finnegan, and 24 hours later, the pharmaceutical industry has really helped.
And you don't know the context, but literally moments ago, I recorded the show with Seth that we'll have published before this one. And we talked about the healthcare system as a system that is set and very difficult to deviate from that system.
Yeah, and we won't. It's too big to fit. We won't do it. My opinion, in our lifetimes, it will still be there.
Okay, I wish you had sat in on the Seth thing, because I'm just going to keep bringing it up. So I'm going to bring it up to everybody listening and hope that you listen to the one with Seth, because you looked at that and you said, I'm going to go and create, I don't know, did you create a different system or an offshoot? Because you're still...
That's fair.
I don't even know.
Fair. I'm going to argue that where we are now, so like I just described, about every 3 or 4 years, it seems like there's an iteration or okay, we're going to come over here. So where we are right now...
Well, a changing of tactic. Yeah. The strategy is still there, but you change the tech. So according, like what I talked about with Seth saying, the roads are still there. You still have this building. People still make appointments. You're still talking functional medicine.
Yeah. I will call 911 if I get in a car wreck. Like that's still there.
But you and your business, the tactics have gone through. I was part of.
I would say strategy, which is also going to our tactics. Our what I would call new strategy is primary functional care. Like I'm going to argue that the Western medical model of primary care is broken enough that it needs a redo. So we're going to come over here and create direct primary functional care.
Mm-hmm.
Primary care is, again, it can be good for some people or some circumstances over time, but I'm going to argue it's more than 50% bad for people. It's mostly harming over time.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, our goal is still the same: help people. But our strategy is going to step even further away from American Western model of primary care to say, our version of primary care is going to be proactive as opposed to reactive. We're going to lean into you. It's not just, hey, call us when you need us, and once a year we're going to do a general physical exam. We're not doing that. I'm going to tell, if you hire me, I'm going to call you at least 4 times a year. And these are going to be the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've hired me, then both of us have an awareness of what your objective is. Kevin Miller.
Yeah.
Are you aiming at the Olympics next year?
Not currently.
No, really
I'm not. Not unless they have a geriatric division of mountain biking. As soon as they do it by age category, and maybe over 50.
Remember remember our good friend Tony Dale, and I joked with him, and he goes, "Well,
Yeah, that's true. Nationals.
I
Yeah.
am good. I am the
You
national
could go.
champion." And I'm
That's
like,
true.
okay.
I know a national champion, 60-year-old in the downhill
There you go.
category. Yeah.
That guy will say, "Yeah, I'm going to be at Worlds,
Mhm.
Over 60 Worlds." But okay,
Yeah.
and then we say, "Okay, well, yeah, I'm not going to talk to you like this
Yeah.
60-year-old guy."
No, I am still an athlete. I am not competing for the Olympics. So
So your objective is, it's not way up here. And so the flip of that is, well, is your objective to have a nice, comfy rocking chair on your deck for the rest of your life?
no.
So somewhere between rocking chair and Olympics is Kevin Miller, and you've hired me to proactively help you to achieve that goal.
Mhm.
Now that goal, because then I would ask you a million questions. Well, how many push-ups, or how fast do you want to run, or what's your liver look like, and all of the questions, which then hones our strategy,
Mhm.
right? Like, so sometimes, I think you've been back and forth between Colorado and Florida. I mean, honestly, sometimes you tell people, look, to be that kind of person, you need to not live at high altitude. It's too much of a stress on you, and it's not working. So we would explore the kinds of strategies. Strategy might be something like, should you be paleo? Should you, our goal is, I want to eat well. What's our strategy? And then if you say, oh, I'm paleo, then tactically every day you don't do dairy.
Yeah.
You do a lot of veggies and some meat, and that's your tactics, which are informed by the strategy, which is informed by your objective. And then, of course, this goes, you're reanalyzing. Like we said this morning, is 10 years ago, you and I could only guess at what does 55 mean.
Yeah.
And kids are different, house is different, business is different. So here we are. Some of our realities are the same. We're still men. We're still Caucasian. We still live in the park, etc. But golly, it feels like so much is different. But we still have a structure. We still have this fluid algorithm. And now, so in our business, we've kind of crossed the line to say, you know what? Because even working with you, I was always afraid. I had caution not to make the normal doctors mad.
Mhm.
I didn't want to say words that would be more offensive, or, hey, you guys are doing it wrong. So now we've evolved to, I do think we're going to attract a certain kind of people, and therefore we're going to offend a certain kind of people. And now I'm okay with that. In fact,
Mhm.
it drives me.
I was gonna say you're reveling it a little bit. It's
I want to have the fight a little bit. Like, or at least the contention.
Mhm.
Like, let's contend with these ideas. And that contention, I think, I hope will help them be better surgeons,
Mhm.
better acute primary care, or acute care people, sick care system. That's what it is. Everybody agrees on that.
It is, and you had to do it. And that, again, that was my premise in coming in here, is thinking, for those who have something they want to offer that does not exist in the normal system of whatever category you're into, that looking outside of it, and in this case, becoming a business owner or an entrepreneur, and that's not your goal, but sometimes it may be the necessary evil. And I'm sympathizing to some degree, because even for me now, because I'm the guy that, he's the consummate entrepreneur and businessman and whatever, and it's taken me way too long to figure out I'm not even a good businessman overall.
I was going to sympathize with you.
Oh, okay.
Down the same pathway, that even in your own business, it's a necessary evil.
To some degree, doing business, I just want to do my own. I just want to do it the way that I want to do it.
Sit around and talk all day long on the podcast. Then you actually have to sell commercial spots and do what you do.
Yeah, and pay people and do your taxes and play. Well, Seth talked about playing the game, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to play the game. I just want to do what I do. You're there to help people. Why do you have to play a stupid game? Well, because that's the system.
It is. Is it fair? And would you agree with this? Part of my joy in this entrepreneurial experience is how it informs my approach to people through on the medical side, because the game is so similar.
Okay.
Right? Like I can go to a patient. A patient has an objective. their first click or call is their strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm like, they have an objective, their strategy was just, well, gosh, I read about functional medicine, or I heard about it with Mark Hyman, or I heard Joe Rogan, or I heard whatever else. I don't feel as well as I want to. I'm not after the Olympics, but I don't feel as well as I want to. I'm going to click or call somebody. And in the American experience, it tends to be your local primary care doctor. So for most of our patients, their story will say, I'll ask them, what's your experience with, Western medicine? Or are you one of the outside the box people? Have you already seen a chiropractor or naturopath or something? Or your own research with Dr. Google?
A decent amount of your patients have, they said, yeah, oh my gosh, I've seen this, alternative practitioner, and I've seen this. And unfortunately, a lot of them are frustrated, and they're like, I remember that back when I was working with you, they're like, yeah, what's different with this guy? What's different with, yeah.
And so the business model has helped me, I think, to hone the craft of just getting right to, here's how we're different. And now, having done it long enough, they'll say, oh, I saw Dr. Somebody, we just moved here from Pittsburgh, and I'll Google, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know that kind of a doctor. And
I do want to point out that you said different, because that came up talking with Seth too, not better, which is one that I would argue, no, go see Randy. He's actually better than the other one. But in a marketing standpoint, it just continues to be relevant that people, you can't really even sell it these days. Better, seriously, like you're really the best doctor.
right.
You're really better than the other. But to say, no, but I'm different. I don't have to be to sell, a different kind of shoe. I don't have to be better. But if you want a different experience, I can give you a different experience. Here's my minimalist shoes. Are they better? Well, I do think those are better too. But to my objective. Okay, fair.
Right?
Fair.
Like your minimalist shoes are better if you want to have feet that work into your 90s.
Okay, well, that's a different. I like that actually. In that sense, because I'm dissing better, but in that sense, to say no, it is better if your objective is different. Okay, no, that's good.
And the business world helped you to hone that.
Yeah, yeah,
right. The that honing in that craft. So we keep circling back around to the patient. I actually do wind up saying, I think after I give them my spiel, so to speak, I'll say, I think this is I'll say, I do think it's the best way. That's why I'm doing it this way.
Sure.
Now, I'm not going to sort of argue with my way is better than that guy's way, I'm better than him or whatever. We've landed here on this because I think it's your best chance to help you achieve your goals.
Yeah.
Compared to this approach or that approach. Now, of course, my goodness, of course, we can debate all day long about the nuances of these things, and that's why we have different docs. But I also very comfortably say, if you find a better deal, a better doc, a better price, a better convenience, they do it faster, then I quote you, I say, you are morally obligated to fire me and go hire that guy, because I need to know I'm not doing a good job and there's a better product out there. This is what, again, the joy of the competition is, holy cow, I can do this better. And even better, right? Like that's what
when you probably learned your lane better as well. Because even if somebody, you would say, gosh, are they better than me? No, but they may have a specialization. Somebody
I'm not going to compete with. And we'll tell people, or I'll ask them, have you tried just taking in easy medicine for that? Because that sure is easier and faster. And they'll often say, or no, I don't want to. Or they'll say, yeah, I tried that. It didn't really help very much. Okay. That's good for me to know. Now, what about this way of doing it? What about this way? And then I'll say, here, if you hired me, here's our way of approaching this problem, which is called you.
Yeah.
My headache, my back pain, my whatever, through a different sort of medical worldview lens. And now I'm ready to kind of hop in the ring, the Teddy Roosevelt ring of contention, right? And say, I think I can wrestle against regular primary care.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to draw a stake in the ground and go out there a little bit and say, I think you guys are doing it wrong. I want to.
I'd say I wasn't searching for this direction necessarily, but I'm curious for you to say that, yeah, the business having to struggle. And again, I'm not here just to advocate business, but again, for us to do the things that we want to do and help in the way we want to help and do our art, in essence, sometimes it requires us to step outside and do our own thing when being an entrepreneur or businessman is not necessarily the point. But you're saying at this point, not only have you come from being somebody that I don't want to do business, to not that, to saying the aspect of doing business has actually helped you be a better doctor.
And therefore, the corollary I'm arguing is the way Western American medicine is doing business is making them a worse doctor.
Agreed.
If you're going to set it up according to efficiency, time, ICD-10 codes, the quote-unquote bean counters, it can't be otherwise.
Well, you're at the motive. I mean, how many people have been out there in the workplace and thought, I'm going to be, again, we just had Seth. Oh, that's his book, Seth Godin. So linchpin. I'm going to be a linchpin. I'm going to be, because his thing is, are you indispensable? So you go into a business and you're working for them. You're an employee. Can you make yourself indispensable? And I'm the kind of guy, you are too, to come in and go, absolutely, I can do it. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to innovate and I'm going to pay attention to what's needed. And then a lot of people get discouraged because they find out they don't want that from me. They just want me to do what I'm supposed to do, cog in a wheel, and do that. This was a system that doesn't support that. So back to you. Here you are as a doc going, okay, so we're just giving people meds left and right, and we're managing their sick care, and we're not actually saying, but why are you sick and taking this medicine? As Randy James would say, you don't have high blood pressure medication because you're lacking in high blood pressure medication. Yeah, deficiency of what's a regular lisinopril. You have a deficiency. So the problem is down here, and you want to go downstream, upstream,
which is very inefficient.
And
right? If your goal is a bottom line, now the patient's goal is, I want to be better. Back to their objective, I would argue that outside of acute trauma and surgery and acute infection, the system's objective cannot, by definition, line up with the patient's objective.
Okay, so let's be candid, because people will relate to this in other businesses, or if there's docs listening to this, which I know there are too, that you are incentivized at the practice you were at before here. You've got the insurance by proxy. The system is paying you to take, 5 to 10 minutes per patient, 15?
Yeah, and you just take the time out of it. They're not paying me to spend time.
Right? They're just for
I am there to ask questions that elicits a code or diagnosis, call it whichever you want, ICD-10 code or diagnosis, hypertension in this example.
All right.
401.9. And that actually might be ICD-9.
Okay.
To elicit a code, I write down that code, right? Click on a computer, that's the code, which automatically prints it up for me. That's the diagnosis, hypertension. Here's your med.
Yeah.
See you in 3 months or a year, whatever the appropriate thing is. All right, next. Now, you can shoot the ball. How's your wife and kids? All those kind of things. That might take 5 minutes. Super easy. No intellectual work done on my part. And like you said before, I could have stayed in that system. You make plenty of money, et cetera, et cetera.
And you were with a partner doc doing that, and he was killing it. And you're over here, and you're not just doing the chat. You're actually talking more, and
I'm hampering the system.
And you're in trouble. And you've got the reception.
I did get in trouble.
Oh, get your butt out of there. Get on to the next patient. Yeah.
Just shut up and color.
Yeah.
And in that system, I can say, okay, that makes sense. I'm in the military. I just got to color lines. So it actually helped me, because then I let go, did the easy job. And my wife and I, we traveled, we did whatever, my brain was elsewhere. But then we got out of that. I got, God forced me into this job of, okay, wait a minute. My alignment with the business world is not consistent with what patients are asking me for. I want to feel better. Well, there's no pill for feel better.
Yeah.
You probably have depression. So that's what happens. And my goodness, 50% of all people come in and they're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what that doctor told me. And so they're like, all right, let's back it up. Not blaming the doc. He's just doing his job, or she, and okay, they got paid to do, they did their job well, and maybe they're very kind. But here's one of the phrases we land on. That doc got paid the same whether the patient's happy or not.
Mhm.
That's what hit me in 2022 or 3. It's like, wait a minute. The physician, the person doing it gets paid. And it doesn't matter. The client, the patient ought to be the one driving this train. And so we have these phraseologies all the time. Medicare doesn't care. Medicare cares how much things cost. And they're going to pay the doc. The doctor can say they care. And I really believe most doctors do care. But it doesn't hit their bottom line. And when you get to somebody's money, financial bottom line, they care even more.
Okay, well, let's just take a statement you said and just give it some, I don't know, if compassion's fair. Because you said they don't, Medicare doesn't care. They're not created to care. For that. They're not created to care about the healthcare. They're created to care about people affording. So they care about the money and making it accessible. They're not there to cure your health or to help your health.
About what you care about.
Well, they think they do. Because they think it's money to afford the sick care.
Now, but let's just say there's a hip replacement.
Yeah.
Once you get to Medicare, and we both have parents, right? Like Medicare,
yeah,
what they pay. And I remember in your case, you were like, holy cow, this is the Taj Mahal of cancer.
My dad said because he got on Medicare when you turn whatever, he's been paying his own health insurance all the time. He said, oh my gosh, it's like I got this card that it's like a get out of jail free card. You just use it and get whatever you want. Don't pay a thing. He was blown away.
Well, but that system didn't help him achieve his vision of wellness. It did pay for the application of, when he and I were working together, these emergency room visits, and they paid the, $5,000 for that emergency room visit, but he didn't come out that other side saying, oh my gosh, I'm so much more well.
Mm-hmm.
He came out a little frustrated with, well, golly, why this and why that? And I'm like, yeah, they don't care about what you care about.
Okay, I want to make an analogy, and again, I'm going to use the stuff that I just read through with Seth in his book about strategy. He talked about a tire company, Michelin, and they came out with a tire that would not get a flat. It wouldn't go flat. I mean, they created like $1 billion into this thing, it won't go flat. And they put it out there and thought this is going to revolutionize everything. But the system of automobile tires, it was a different application. So you come in there with any kind of an issue with and they did wear out. I mean, they just didn't get flat, wear out, whatever. And the tire places didn't have the equipment to fix it. And for them to buy the equipment, there's not enough people. And they're like, just get rid of your dumb tires, just use regular tires. And it pushed it out. So that tire does not exist today. So they were putting up, and so in Seth's scenario, he's saying like, you're not going to change the river. You put a dam up and it's just not going to work. It's too much effort. But if you can create it's kind of like you're saying, like a channel, a tributary to just bring in other people. So here you are saying, okay, hey, all you guys who are needing help, but you don't just want a med. You actually want to figure out what is causing you to need the med and not need it. Like get help. Then let's open up this door and take the people that are flowing downstream, and you made an opportunity out of that, as opposed to going over here where you were in the traditional system trying to take longer with a patient and say, no, we need to help them not need this med. And you took...
you've been on the river with Patrick. Like when you get off of your floaty,
yeah,
that river will knock you down.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like I was.
Yeah.
Like the river's the river. And unless you're coming in with their governmental trillions and billions and building a dam, which will just have its own set of problems.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. So now we're saying, okay, we cannot change the river. And actually, yeah, people, and I wouldn't want to. The river is awesome for acute care, acute infection, and if you already have cancer.
Well, right. The last September when I broke 7 bones, and what did I do with my lung? I didn't puncture it. What's that called?
Pneumothorax. You dropped your lung.
Dropped your lung. Okay. I was grateful for the ER.
That's right.
That's what they're made for.
Told me, I was at go to the ER.
I did. You don't remember? I was like, what do I do? Go to the ER. What am I going to do?
Yeah. What's going on in there? And worst case scenario, and in fact you had, but it was only like a 10%, so it was the kind that will heal naturally if you let it. Versus if one whole half of your lung shrinks up, and it just your lung is held up by something.
No, I actually called you because they wanted to keep me overnight, and I didn't want to. And I was like, do I really have to? And you didn't, but you said, hey, you probably won't die. So
if you feel like you're gonna call me again, I'll come get you and take it to you.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, so again, looking at the system, gosh, I want to, for some reason, I find myself wanting to tell the story. So I will, just for those who can sympathize. It is, here you are doing something that I wrote this down as I was thinking about you early this morning. I think that if you have 10 people that are having a problem with, some health related problem, that you could help 9 of them get better and never need surgery. And out of those 9, I'm exaggerating the point. Maybe it's not that many. Let's say 5, and it's 4 people, and you help them not need a surgery. You will make less money than the surgeon who helps the one who doesn't get help avoiding it. That's a system. That's a depressing, frustrating system. And other people are out there in other industries dealing with that.
Who put that on paper? Oh, is Tom Blue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So he's a medical economist. And at one of the meetings, I think this is in the late teens, and he did that and he put up a chart. Here's, a chart for patient A and patient B. And if patient A goes into the system, gets a $20,000 surgery because they have colitis, and they do a partial colectomy and they take out 10 inches. And now that patient has a weird GI system and they just got issues their whole life. And that's what the system does. Versus if over here I come in and I say, golly, Mrs. Smith, this and that and this and that. And for 6 to 12 months, she does a lot of work, but she comes out the other side. And let's not say she's perfect. She still has a bout of colitis once a year, whatever.
But you saved a $20,000 procedure.
Yeah. And it's evident, but it's not quantifiable. The system cannot.
I do want to play with the numbers real quick. So if you did a $20,000, so if a surgeon does a surgery and it costs, Blue Cross Blue Shield or Medicaid or whatever who's paying for it, it costs them $20,000. How much of that money will the doctor see? Ish.
Yeah. So then it's the whole game of the surgeon gets $8,000, the facility gets,
all that.
$8,000, the anesthesiologist gets $1,000, there's the RSA facility fee, facility fee. So
okay, so
is in there.
All that stuff, and let's say that the surgeon got $8,000, and that's why they have the houses and the yachts and the whatever. If that person had come over here and gotten root cause help,
let's say they paid me over the course of 12 months about $5,000, and they might have to spend some extra money on different food or a different supplement or some labs or whatever else. So now they're going to pay out of pocket, let's say somewhere between $5,000 to $8,000. But it's just common sense. Out of
pocket to you. They're paying that money while they're paying their insurance bill. But if they wouldn't come to you, no money out of pocket, and they would continue going on, get sick, and cost their insurance company $20,000. How much better off?
And still not be well. How
much better off to come back here and get the insurance company to pay you $10,000? You make more than the surgeon. They get better and don't need the $20,000. They are not paying anything out of pocket outside of insurance. Insurance is covering it. An insurance company saves $10,000.
Here's where, okay, so you and I, this is interesting because this is where we were in 2019 with our insurance attempt company. And I think back then we're sitting on the deck, we're like, what you just did is like, oh my gosh, this doesn't make any sense. But here's where I would change. Here's where I think that system will fail, and it has failed thus far. You just shifted the care part to the insurance company.
Yeah.
The patient has to be the driver.
Yeah.
They have to be the captain of their motivation. But otherwise, Blue Cross is now highly motivated to call up Kevin Miller and say, Kevin, we saw your car again at the donut shop.
I don't want that. It would actually be good, but we
got to charge you $100 a month more. And the next day you get a call, Kevin, you ran to the stop sign again. You were only going 3 miles an hour, but you did not stop. And you allowed us to see your phone, and so we got to charge that $100 a month more. it would be World War III. That's a revolt because people would feel like the man, the big brother's watching you, but they're flummoxed, or I would say it's a fallacy that that's not true already.
Yeah.
And it is called government, big insurance, big pharmacy. Already is doing that, only it's getting paid for through your business system, and you call it, they even make you call it
a benefit. So the deficit.
That's where I'm drawing a line in the sand and saying that's a wall, it's a lie. That's a shackle. And there's a different way. But to Mrs. Smith or Mr. and Mrs. Smith in the water of that river with 3 kids or whatever, and they're like, oh my gosh, what? And that's the problem you and I had back in 2017, 18 is the learning curve to follow this different stream over there. And so where we are is people don't learn that until they get hurt by the system, typically. Or they're just philosophically not aligned. They don't like big pharma, big insurance, whatever. Or they just not getting better and they've been hurt by it, and then they step out.
No.
And that's where we're finding success in our bid. What I get excited about business.
Yeah.
So now we're using the tool, and rather than seeing the entrepreneurial side as a necessary evil, I'm saying, gosh, this is the tool that is like, render under Caesar. So God gave us this gift of economy that if I do it well enough, to have influence enough, which of course translates to financial success and, networking, all those things that Seth Godin is such a master at, I will help people.
Yeah.
Or I have a higher chance of helping a higher amount of people. And that's where I think it
kind of bodes to, I don't want to say a higher calling. It depends where you're at, but there's a part of the integrity. You want to help people get well. And part of that is being in business, being private, and having competition.
Maybe not higher calling, but I'm convicted, compelled.
Yeah. To provide a better mousetrap.
That's right. And Zig Ziglar, I feel morally obligated. I would be immoral if I went back into the system.
Yeah.
I would be morally inconsistent.
Well,
yeah, not to say it's all badly immoral.
No, it isn't. But I want to put that to, because I remember when I first started working with you, and you're sitting here trying to, manage the bills and pay things, and you're getting postcards in the mail that you could come and live in Aspen and work half as much and make 2 or 3 times as much money. And yet you can't stomach it.
I couldn't.
And there's times when your wife's going, oh my gosh, can't you even just do it a couple of years?
Yeah, I was going to say, just
we'll buy another house. And then you can go back to helping people.
Retire and then do all that weird, not medical. That was my dad, my mom.
Yeah.
We joke about it through the years when he left. And then she, the family joke is, oh, that was back when Dad was a real doctor.
Yeah.
That's when we had money because he was a real surgeon.
Yeah. That's
it makes me smile, right? Like you and I talk so often about, gosh, if I won the lottery or whatever, would I still do this? And I'd like to think that I would, because the idea is compelling, motivating. I am motivated, and that motivation gives me a drive. And these things are now fueling each other to the point where, okay, back to our objective, strategy, tactic, like tactically we're looking at, because that's where the population center is in Colorado Springs, like I just need presence there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that need going to drive me to do yet another one of these big loans? And, now I got to play the game and be in debt and those kind of things. But different from 2010. And what John and I, who's my partner, the way we say it differently, and you would say this too, is, gosh, we know I am networked. I know people, and they know me, and they believe in the product that we're selling, and I think they would invest in that.
Yeah.
And be partners in that. So and that excites me way more than the bank getting, 10% or whatever. If I'm partnered with my friend and colleague over here, and he gives me a better deal, and it's 6.5%, but it's safe money. I'm a safe bet, et cetera else. And he's happy. He's making a profit. I'm making a profit. And we're back to, if we have a better product, we're morally obligated.
Okay. I was I was literally going to say that next again, because it's interesting to say, so if you have a better price, so if Randy, if you think you can help people better with this method of healthcare, of functional medicine, it is your moral obligation to, he doesn't just say bring it to market, he actually says to sell it. And if to sell it, you have to go into business for yourself, it's your moral obligation to go into business for yourself. And if going into business yourself requires you to become a businessman and to do business well, you're morally obligated to do that. So just as important as you learning how to help somebody not be on this pharmaceutical with all its side effects and letting them still maintain the internal pathology, that's important. And it's just as important that you learn how to do business well. As Seth would say, play the game. Yeah. That puts it different.
It's only taken me about 15 years.
I know. Well, and me too, because I'm looking at it and I'm just running and gunning. I don't really want to screw with the business stuff. I just want to help people. But and yet, if I don't do business well, I can't bring it to people.
Here's one more nuance to that is our actual business. Like, they play with the word. So we do functional medicine over here. I'd like to think that I'm a functional employer. I employ 5 families. Mm-hmm. So there's 5 people. You don't know this, but yesterday, because we've talked about it for so long, but yesterday we did our first annual hike. So we did the cracks.
Sweet.
It was great. Just the fact of doing it, an event, we're outside, we're shooting the bull, we're having an experience that we will always look back and say, remember when we did that thing? Mm-hmm. And, just like within a family, you do things together, it creates bonds, creates all of these other things. John, carried 10 extra pounds in his backpack for all of our food. Mm-hmm. That idea of functional employment of course I want to be a cool boss, a cool employer, but I'm compelled to, you and I have talked about that too. How do I do that with humility without bossiness? And that is just that is a tension every day. There's no black and white, right? Like, you can't walk into work every day and just be the same person. Like, you've got to bend around people, and maybe they had a bad night or bad kids are sick or whatever. And honestly, I think we do that well. And I think it's to the well-being of our employers, our employees. And that also motivates me I want to create another one for the sake of these employees.
It's interesting. Can I pick on you? Because when we first started working together, you were not a good employer. Right. You didn't even serve the patients well, because you just needed somebody to fit the seat. And if the receptionist doesn't show up, put somebody else in. If the medical assistant doesn't, get a temp agency, just get somebody there to do it. And you ended up with people that you were aghast with.
That was in conflict with.
Patients were. And that was the story on you. Dr. James, I mean, he himself is awesome in his care. His practice is crap.
You just got to get through.
Yeah.
And I've heard that about other offices so many times.
Yeah.
Doc is okay, but golly, I can't get a call back, or I can't whatever else. Finally, right? Like, years later, we're finally to the point where I think we're doing it.
Well, I'm thinking about you again, the blessing of pain. Yeah. If you had not had the pain of that, and all of it, the way you do business, just as much as the way that you're a doctor, it all serves the client. It all serves your family. It all serves everybody.
Our employees.
Everybody it touches better.
And I would say, golly, it's because we live in a culture nowadays that also, I think, just wrongly black and white's the whole capitalism idea. Like, there's
agreed.
It's always vilified in the movies, and yet the movies are built on capitalism. That movie will fail if there's not people who can.
If it bleeds, it leads. Yeah.
Yeah. All of that we're. So I have stepped back to, like what you said, I am morally obligated to sell it at profit. If there is no profit, things will not go. We all have cars. We all have phones. We all have things that are being sold at a profit. And I think my life is better for it. I enjoy my.
You said that not long ago about, you referenced the money, and that I'm paraphrasing, today you have no problem asking to be paid well for what you do. And you felt guilty about it.
I mean, that was
day one.
Yeah.
We
Years of that.
And I was here. We did. So I went folks here. So he's, regular doctor taking people in, they pay insurance. And then the day comes and he says, hey, to all your patients, I don't know how many hundreds it was at the time, we sent an email out or postcard. I can't remember what all we did, saying, as of this date, we will no longer take your insurance and you will pay out of pocket. And the nervousness around that, I saw pictures. We had people sitting in the 50s in the office going, okay, so here's the plan.
You guys do it.
Yeah. And you've got so many of them that signed on and a lot of them that walked out the door, and your guilt. And then as we, here's the price, and then we raised it. And then now today, kind of like you're saying, now business is actually fun. And now I'm happy to charge plenty and be paid well for helping people.
And it makes sense. Like, it took me, and I think I said that to you, sometime recently, finally, I feel like I know what I'm talking about. Like, you and I, like, you're going to know way more about what it would cost to build your own house, because you did it. I have an idea. Like, I'm not going to say 10 million. I'm not going to say $20, right? Like, I can get it in the close, but you would be thinking, oh my gosh, framing costs this, and electricity costs this, plumbing costs that. And that was one of the funny things when we were walking around down there with the commercial real estate people. And I would ask questions like, well, what does it cost to take out a wall? And, their response was always about 10 times more than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I get it. Let me just have a thought and then multiply it by 10, because I don't know what I'm talking about. But when it comes over here to this economy, finally, and then I can look at a patient and say, oh, Kevin, so just this week we volunteered, me and Aaron, for high school physical. The system. That is the quintessential example of the schools say every kid needs a sports physicals. You know the value of that? Very close to zero. In fact, studies have been some of the most important question that I could ask a teenager is, are you doing drugs? If you are, stop smoking, stop drinking. Are you having sex? If you are, well, make it be protected. How are your grades? The number one reason why kids get held out of sports is,
grades and
grades, number one. Number two,
I don't know, STDs or something. Oh, okay.
Medical is not even top 10.
Oh, wow.
Number three, so traditionally number three is, well, gosh, I forgot now. But blood pressure, you can't touch your toes. Like, how many times in 20 years have I said no?
Or cough, and they actually have a...
Yeah, cough, and I was like, oh my gosh, I found something.
Yeah.
In those two that I held out, it was obvious, and I was mad at the parent. Like, what do you got to parent the kid here? Anyway, so I saw 30 people over 2.5 hours, and 2 of them came in with issues, and I'm like, my heart's breaking, because I know they're in the system. I know I can help. And I'm in a moral quandary. Do I say something that implies that I think their doctor's wrong?
Yeah.
And it was just so, on our hike yesterday, we talked about that a lot. Like, gosh, the moral quandary that we're in, where I feel like we'd have a better mousetrap. And I can't go to these people and say, your doctor's wrong. They don't understand. But what I can do is create a business over here. And my point there was, one of them was no secret that this was a low income situation. And she said, do you take XYZ? And I'm like, no. And she's like, I knew it. But I said, but do you see your disappointment there? You've been trained by the system to think that they should give you this. I'm just not selling what they're providing.
Yeah.
If your kid breaks his leg, you're well cared for. But if you want him to be thriving, you don't do that.
Yeah.
I get it now. But she didn't get it until the point where they were so frustrated.
Wow.
And now they feel trapped. And so she got it when I said it, you and I said all the time, what's the number one motivation? If people are in that river, why would they go find a different little stream over here? The number one reason is desperation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so sorry. I told her 20 times, I'm so sorry. But I know she was helping for me to do her a solid and say, hey, I'll do you for free.
Yeah.
And I'm just not going there because you wouldn't appreciate it. You need the pain.
Yeah.
And you need the return on the investment.
That's a consummate message as the people who want to do well for others and the propensity to give your services away free. And pretty much everybody who's been there comes back and says just what you did. If they don't pay, they don't take advantage of it. It's not a big enough investment.
And we tend to, I used to also say, I would blame them. Kannst du mich jetzt auf Deutsch verstehen? It would be like me blaming you that you haven't taken the time to learn me in German.
Yeah.
And then we're going to expect Biden to pay for you to learn German so that of course you would have no appreciation. If you want to learn German, you got to learn German or golf or how to cook better or how to eat better food or how to clarify what your values are or what motivates you. Like you can't put motivation into somebody.
No.
They have to do that work and you're there as the guide.
It's an interesting, I didn't foresee some of these paths that we've talked through today. It's one that those people out here, it was just probably most of my audience who want to help people. They've got something they can coach them. They know that they can lead people a certain direction, or an artist that I can provide something that matters to them. And the struggles with going into business for yourself and fighting against the system. I wanted to commiserate with that some and tell a story. And again, I was inspired this morning when we're sitting there and you're talking about business going, it's actually fun. And that is a big turn from even a few number of years ago, I think.
And I think both of you and I can look back on some pain.
And for you to say also, and I'll highlight this in the intro or the title or whatever, to say that doing business has actually helped you care for people better. That's a big statement.
Friends, thanks for driving with me here and my buddy, Randy James. Again, if you want to connect with him and see what he's doing, you can do so. Go to truelifemedicine.com. And got a question, a thought, a comment, an idea on anything we talked about, let me know. If you want to get it to Randy, I'll get that to him as well. Email me at kmiller@kevinmiller.co. Hey, until next time, I hope this episode helps you drive further and really enjoy the ride. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey. I look forward to meeting you in the Drive Tribe community for ongoing discussions about each episode. You can subscribe to the Drive Drop newsletter for weekly updates. Find it all at kevinmiller.co, along with all our social media and video clips. Until next time, I hope this episode helps you drive further and enjoy the ride.